Welcome to our session, our Blackboard Collaborate preview, our introduction to next generation web conferencing at NIU. I'm Jason Rohde. I'm the Assistant Director of the Faculty Development and Instructional Design Center here at Northern Illinois University, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. Thank you to those of you that are joined us live, as well as if you're here joining us watching the archive. We're glad to have you with us today, and I look forward to sharing with you a preview of this next generation web conferencing tool, Blackboard Collaborate. You do have my contact information, email address, and so forth here. Feel free to follow up with me if you have additional questions after our session today, and I will have my contact information available on a slide at the end of the presentation as well. And I'd be happy to follow up with you with any questions that you may have as we move forward here. So today our agenda really is to first and foremost highlight the current status of academic web conferencing at NIU. I want to provide just a very quick overview to give you some context as to where we've come from and where we're at today as far as use of web conferencing on our campus. Then I'm going to be previewing for you the new features and interface that is in this next generation Blackboard Collaborate web conferencing tool. Now, we are using Blackboard Collaborate today for this session, and those of you participating live, you get to experience a web conferencing session from a participant standpoint. If you're viewing the archive, we're actually making the archive available in a couple of different formats. We are posting the actual online archive, which is the full Collaborate experience with the seeing the whiteboard slides, my video, and so forth. But we're also making available, there are a couple of other options you have when you make archives available from Blackboard Collaborate. And so we have a mobile version that is a mobile podcast, mobile video that is just the whiteboard slides. And then we also take that video file and we embed it online. And so if you go to the faculty development website and you go to our archives area, each of those archives are actual video files that we exported from Blackboard Collaborate, and then we host on a video hosting service called Vimeo that lets us embed that within our web page on our website. So either way, you're going to get to experience Collaborate and get a taste for it, either live or by viewing the archive. I do want to then share with you NIU's options at this point for moving forward with upgrading to Blackboard Collaborate, and then solicit your feedback, which is really the most important part, to get your feedback as to your thoughts on this new web conferencing tool, what excites you about it, what features would you'd be most interested in, and your perhaps interest in making use of this tool in your own teaching. So that gives you an overview of kind of where we are heading today. So let me start by just very briefly highlighting our current use of Wimba on our campus. Now, Wimba Classroom is the web conferencing tool that NIU has licensed and is available campus-wide. It's implemented and anyone can make use of it in their teaching. There are several other tools that are being used on campus in smaller numbers, but Wimba Classroom is the officially supported tool on campus. So I have highlighted the last 3 years. We actually started with Wimba Classroom back in 2009, and you can see as of 2011, this past fall, we had 380 users of Wimba Classroom through Blackboard, and so that includes faculty. It also includes students. Now, within that 380, when we look at just how many faculty and staff use Wimba, you can see that we've held steady between typically 20 to 30. We had 31 faculty using Wimba Classroom this past fall. We don't have the spring numbers finalized yet because we're still making use of it this spring, but we'll be taking a look at those after spring semester. When we look at student users of Wimba Classroom, again, we're in the mid-300s for student users of Wimba Classroom for this past fall. And then also we keep track of the number of Wimba classrooms used. Now these are the different web conferencing rooms, and we're right about 100 or so Wimba Classrooms were used this last fall. So that gives you a bit of a number of an idea of the usage of the rooms. And then one of the features of Wimba Classroom is making the archives available so that faculty and students can view those after the fact. And you can see that quite a number of Wimba archives have been viewed by users that maybe didn't participate live. They can view that archive, or they can go back and view the archive after participating live. So that's Wimba Classroom, and we are now, as I mentioned, we're looking to upgrade to Blackboard Collaborate. And to just give you a little bit of context, a couple years ago, Blackboard purchased the two major academic web conferencing tools, and those were Wimba and Illuminate. You may have heard of both of those. There are several other web conferencing platforms out there, but really those were the two leading providers and tools that were focused specifically for education. And that's really why NIU initially adopted Wimba Classroom, was because of the ease of interface, the faculty in kind of reviewing the different products. Faculty chose Wimba because of its really focus on education, the way it was really designed for educators. Also the fact that it was seamlessly integrated in Blackboard using a building block, making it very easy to create Wimba classrooms and to access those classrooms. It all took place through Blackboard. Well, Blackboard wanted to get into and really even more closely integrate a web conferencing platform with itself, and so it actually purchased Wimba and Illuminate, and has been in the process these past 2 years of combining the two products together. And in fact, at the time that they were purchased by Blackboard, both products, they were in the midst of complete overhauls. And so it was an opportune time to really look at bringing them together. And this last summer, so summer of 2011, Blackboard released the first version, Blackboard Collaborate, version 11. And so it's been close to 10 months now since that release. And we are at this point now looking to, as an institution, to upgrade to this next generation web conferencing tool. Blackboard will no longer be really updating or upgrading the Wimba Classroom tool, and they're encouraging institutions to look at making this upgrade, this transition to this next generation platform. And so really what we want to do is get some feedback from our Wimba users as to what they think of this new tool, and if they see any issues with moving forward with an upgrade sooner than later. So that's a little bit of the background of where we're at to this date with looking at Blackboard Collaborate. And so what I'd like to do is let you hear a little bit from the president of Blackboard Collaborate, and I'm going to actually launch a video. Now, in the presentation today, I'm going to try to, I just want to demo a few different features for you. And one of the new features that we have in Blackboard Collaborate is the ability to show multimedia. So right now in Wimba, you can't play videos for students during the session. So I'm going to actually, in just a moment, I'm going to launch an MP4 video. It's just a video file that I've loaded into our session today. It's going to open up a new player, and you're going to actually not only see it, but you'll hear the audio. It'll play on your computer. And so once it starts playing, those of you participating live here today, you'll see it launch. And if you wouldn't mind, once you hear the audio and it starts playing, maybe in the text chat, if you could just maybe leave a quick comment that it's playing for you, or give me a green check mark, that would be great. And then once it's finished, then we'll be able to continue on with our presentation. Before I launch the video, I'll also mention that you can actually speak while the video is going on. So I'm not going to do that, but if there was an instance where you wanted to play a video for your students, and while it's playing you wanted to kind of talk over the video and give a further explanation or something, you'll have the ability to do that. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and launch this quick video. It's just about 1.5 minutes long. It's from the president of Blackboard Collaborate. He just shares a little bit about kind of Blackboard's commitment to next generation web conferencing. All right, so hopefully that played. Looks like it played for most of you. Sabiha had some issues. You mentioned you weren't able to get it to play. I think it just depends on making sure all you have is a black screen. I'm not sure what the cause of that would have been, Sabiha. The video really is designed, depending on the format you pick, that it should use the video player that's on your computer. So I tried it both on my Mac and my Windows system, and they both worked for me here today. I guess that would be something we would not want to troubleshoot a little more, Sabiha, with you, maybe offline. But really, the goal here is that just to kind of showcase that it is possible to play video. So I see that Alicia and Arlene both were able to see that video and to see how that opened up and did play. That's one of the more advanced features. You may or may not have need to use that in your teaching, but it certainly is available to you. So let me talk a little bit about the interface. Now, those of you participating live today, of course, you're experiencing the interface for yourself, live and in person. But let me just talk a little bit about how it differs from Wimba Classroom for those that are viewing the archive. It's really designed into panels, and so you can see on this diagram there are these different purple boxes, and they really designate different panels within the interface. Whereas Wimba was a much more static interface that the user couldn't really control, you have many more options in the Blackboard Collaborate interface. You'll notice for each of these panels there is a little triangle that's to the left of the name of the panel. So there's an audio and video panel, there's a participants panel, there's a chat panel. And you see that little triangle that's there. If you click on that, and those of you participating live here today, you can click on those little triangles in our interface to minimize, for example, the video. If you wanted to minimize the video seeing me, you could click on that triangle, it would collapse down. Then you could click it again to expand it. The same thing with the participants and the chat. These panels are also, they can be tore off, meaning you can click and drag to move a panel out of the kind of the locked-in interface and to enlarge it. So participants have much more freedom and flexibility when it comes to the interface. So the audio and video panel, participants will see where they can, if someone is sharing video, it will appear here. There is a talk button that you click on to enable your talk, and then you click on the talk again to release it. And then there's also the option to enable your video if you're using a webcam. There is an audio setup wizard that there's a little icon, looks like a microphone with a little red dot, that can be clicked on to launch the setup wizard to make sure your audio is functioning properly on your system. Then there is in the participant frame here, this is where the participants can see who else is logged into the session. They can also participate in a variety of different interactive experiences by raising their hand or indicating their preference, answer to an informal poll. Also, there's an icon there. It looks like a user with a clock for stepping away. If you're going to be away from the session, you can click on that, and even some emoticons you can pick on to share some emotion during the session. Then beneath is the chat panel. By default, this is at the bottom. Again, all of these panels can be moved, reordered, resized, but this is where you would participate in the text chat. Also, any private chat messages would take place here in this chat panel. Then to the right is what we call a whiteboard, so this large area here. And in this example, there is the floating tools palette is available. So in this instance, the presenter has allowed the participants to be able to annotate over this whiteboard slide. And then above the whiteboard, there are some other buttons to some of the different features, and they're actually grayed out for participants. You notice that the whiteboard, application share, and web tour, these three buttons are grayed out because participants by default cannot launch those tools. They have to be granted that permission from a moderator. There's also a recording indicator, so the participants can see if the session is in fact being recorded. So that gives you a glimpse of the participant interface. Now if we take a look at the moderator interface, and what do you see as a moderator? It's the same interface. No surprise there. Excuse me. There are a couple of more options that you have. You'll notice that the whiteboard, application sharing, and web tour, these features are all enabled for the moderator and can be clicked on. The moderator is the one that can start and end the recording. Above the whiteboard is the ability for the moderator to create new whiteboard pages, as well as to advance through the different slides that they have launched and they may have loaded for the session today. There is a load content button where the moderator can load content right on the fly. In fact, that's what I did today for our session. I just prepared a PowerPoint and I loaded it right into the whiteboard very easily, very quickly, just before the session started here today. To the right, over back to the participant frame over here, you'll notice that where we have the participants listed, we have the ability to, for example, see how they respond to polling questions. There's a quick summary of how many responded with a check mark versus an X, yes, no types of responses. There's also a global options menu. And I know this is really hard to see on this screenshot, but just to give you a glimpse, to the right of the participants there's a little option to click, and you can turn on or off options in a global fashion for the participants. So maybe you want to disable chat from everybody in the room, or audio for a period of time. You can turn any permissions on or off using this global options menu. So there's also an activity window that you can show if you want to see the activity in the room. There's a nice summary of the activity that's taken place. But that gives you a glimpse of the moderator interface. Again, it's very customizable. Just to give you an example, today I actually took the text chat and actually tore it off from this interface, and I have it floating to the left of the rest of my screen, so that I'm able to enlarge it so I can see more of the text chat and I don't have to worry about scrolling. So you do have, you can really customize the interface to your liking. I've put together a feature comparison, because those of you that have used Wimba Classroom before, it's helpful maybe to see a comparison of really what are the new features versus the features that Wimba currently has. And I've put together a one-page, basically a handout that will show you, give you a side-by-side comparison of the features. And what I'm going to do is actually send it to you right now through the Wimba session. One of the features is that you can submit a a file directly to the participant. So in a moment now, I'm going to send a file to you. It's going to pop open a little dialog box. It's going to ask you, do you want to save this file? It's just a PDF file to your computer. And you can simply click yes, and then depending on what operating system you're using, it'll either automatically save into your downloads folder or may prompt you to select a location on your computer to save that. So if you'd like this nice printed version of the comparison between Wimba Classroom and Blackboard Collaborate 11, you can save that file. If not, you can click no, and there's the ability to download it. I'll show you where you can download it online later. So that's the file transfer feature, and that is something that we don't currently have in Wimba Classroom. And it's handy if you need to distribute, for example, homework at the end of a web conferencing session. You can distribute it to all the students that are logged in directly from within the interface. Another feature is the ability to do what's called application share, and this is something that we've had in Wimba Classroom, but it's been it's a rather tedious process. There are lots of clicks and window management. It's much simpler in Blackboard Collaborate to do what's called application share. So, for example, I have this handout open on my computer in Adobe Reader, this PDF file, and I'm going to go ahead and actually share my desktop with you. So I'm going to open up, and now with 2 clicks, I have shared with you my on my desktop. I have Adobe Reader open, and I have this PDF file of this handout open. So what you're seeing right now is my screen, and I'm able to scroll, and you're seeing what's happening on my screen in real time. So I'm scrolling down to the bottom, scrolling back up, and I can go ahead and I can annotate on the slide. I could go through and highlight some text, and you're seeing those changes in real time. And this application share feature is really handy when it comes to showing the students something, a piece of software or something on your computer. Many great applications when it comes to annotation or highlighting or just trying to draw attention to something that you have on your computer and you want to show that to your students. Maybe you've done a screencast before where you've recorded something that's happened on your screen so the students could see that and see that recorded. You can do that in real time live using the application share feature. So I'm going to stop application sharing right now so that we can, we'll all go back to our slides here. But I did want to show you how the application sharing and what that looks like. Again, very simple to do in Blackboard Collaborate. So rather than kind of going through this handout, and you have that for your reference, I thought today I'd quickly, I should say, highlight the new features that are in Blackboard Collaborate that are not currently in Wimba Classroom, just to give you some context. And first of all, Web Tour. Now, this is a feature that we currently in Wimba Classroom, you can share a website with students. However, as soon as you do that, you lose all control. They're able to navigate and go to any web page they want, and you don't have control of that session. You can't bring them back to a page. The new Web Tour feature actually allows you to retain control, to allow the students to browse a page, but when you want to bring them back, you can move to another page. And I'm going to show you how that works in just a little bit. Audio buffering. This allows for you to give a session, and for students, depending on their connections, because different users have different speed connections, if their connection has a drop in bandwidth, rather than them being locked out of the session or getting kicked off, the audio for the session buffers down and sometimes even speeds up a bit so that they're able to continue to hear what's going on without losing access to the session. Along the lines of control and bandwidth, the end user can now change their video quality. So currently in Wimba Classroom, as the presenter, when you set up your Wimba Classroom, you select a video quality. And then every user receives the video that you send out, your webcam video, in that quality format. Now in Blackboard Collaborate, the individual user can select what type of connection they're on, and their video quality is adjusted based on the connection setting that they chose. So when you all logged in today, those of you participating live, you selected what type of a connection you were connecting on, and that helped dictate the video quality that you're receiving from the video feed. I mentioned earlier that this new whiteboard, and with the whiteboard there are many new features. You can add different types of images and clip art to the whiteboard, and you might think, well, why is that really, why is it important to be able to add clip art? Well, it doesn't have to be just artwork, but other types of images. For example, I'm going to create a new whiteboard page, and I'm going to add a piece of clip art, and the clip art is actually going to be in the form of some graph paper. So here we have some graph paper now, where we could go ahead and draw some lines, or I could. And there's different kinds of graph paper. For example, here's some more of a different. We've got an XY axis here to work from, and there's many other types. I'm just kind of, as the moderator, looking through the different kinds of backgrounds they're called. Here's a music sheet where you could actually draw notes and music, right? Compose it together right here during the web conference session. So it's just very easy to do that now in this whiteboard. The annotations that you make within the whiteboard are now persistent. So what's nice about this is if you had a whiteboard page up and you're making annotations, the students are collaborating in this whiteboard space, and you move on to a new page, you make a new whiteboard, all of that is saved. Whereas currently in Wimba Classroom, those annotations, they don't save. They're just for more of a period in time unless you take a snapshot of them. So it is more of a dynamic and persistent whiteboard. Multi-byte characters are supported more for foreign language and other technical type symbols. That type of text, it can be entered on the whiteboard as well as the text chat. There is an animated laser pointer, so the fact that you're seeing this floating finger move around the screen here, and you can change this pointer. I'm using a finger. I could switch over. Now I have a laser pointer. There is a smiley face, for example. I could use a smiley face, but you're seeing that move around as I move my mouse on the screen, giving it more of a real life, real world type of feel. There are real-time indicators of chat and whiteboard activity, and this is really handy when you ask a question in a web conferencing session and you want to provide students a moment to respond. There can often be some of that dead time, dead air. Nobody's saying anything, and you're wondering, did they hear you? Are they responding? Now, when you start to type in the text chat, or a student enables a particular feature, you see next to their name a status indicator that activity is happening, so you know which students are typing, and so forth. You've already, those of you participating live today, experienced the file transfer, where in session you can send a file to your students, and you can have it set so that you can have files preloaded, so when they log into the session, they'll be prompted to download those files, or you can send them like I did, midway through the session. The multimedia presentation tool allows you to play video during a session for the students, and there are a variety of different formats: Windows Media, QuickTime, MP4, MP3. Those formats are all accessible and can be played using the multimedia presentation tool. There is the ability to moderate chat, and you can set up the chat. You have more control over the chat now in Blackboard Collaborate. If you want to turn off, for example, the private chat, you can do that. You can also set it up where the chat is moderated. There is a quiz manager if you'd like to, and in Wimba you had the ability to create quizzes. They were called questionnaires. But the quiz manager is really more for assessing and not just surveying the students. And you can create questions that are graded, and then you're able to get to those scores. Much like you might use a personal response system or clickers in a physical classroom, you can use the quiz manager to have virtual assessments of your students during a live web conferencing session if you'd like. A new feature that hasn't yet been enabled in Blackboard Collaborate but is coming by this summer is echo cancellation. And what this allows is for up to 6 users to have their audio enabled and for there not to be the feedback that you often get in a web conferencing session when you have multiple people with their mics enabled and speakers. You start to hear a ringing loop of noise from having multiple people speak at once. It really that new feature alone will make it a much more dynamic type of online interaction because you're not having to remember to click talk and mute yourself when you're not speaking. All of that. You simply enable your microphone once by clicking the talk button and you talk. The other feature that comes with that echo cancellation is the ability to use a built-in microphone. So right now, those of you participating live, or if you're seeing me on my webcam, you notice that I have a headset on today, and that's because the microphone, not only is the quality good, but also having the speakers, there isn't the feedback issue. Now with the echo cancellation, once that is a part and a feature that is available, you'll be able to use basically any computer with a built-in microphone, and you won't have that feedback that will come when you use a built-in mic as opposed to a headset. Blackboard is in the process of developing a mobile app that will allow students to participate in a web conferencing session on a smartphone. So as the moderator, as the faculty member, you'll still need to be on a computer to lead the session, but your students, if they have a smartphone, and we know from the recent studies almost half of all college students in America have a smartphone, they will be able to launch a web conferencing session on a smartphone. They'll be able to see the slides, hear the audio, actually interact with text chat, with interactive polling questions and such, directly from a mobile device, which is pretty remarkable. So that's a feature that is being developed. There's no timeline as to when that'll be available, but it is something Blackboard is working on developing as another feature to Blackboard Collaborate. So that's a rundown of the new features not currently in Wimba that are in Blackboard Collaborate. Now, when it comes to current Wimba features that are not yet available in Collaborate, and this is important to make note of, and this is one of the reasons why up to this point NIU has not made the upgrade yet to Blackboard Collaborate, is because when it was initially launched back in the summer of 2011, it basically had the Illuminate feature set with the new, which was going to be the new Wimba UI. There were a few features that Illuminate did not have that Blackboard or Wimba Classroom did have, and that Blackboard was not able to implement in the first release. And so I wanted to point those out, and part of our soliciting your feedback is to get a sense of, are any of these features really showstoppers for you, or are they things that you can live without, given the other benefits, the new features that this Blackboard Collaborate does offer. So one thing I'll point out, and it's really not a feature discrepancy, but it's just a difference, is in terms of persistent settings and content. So Wimba is currently room-based. So those of you that have taught with Wimba Classroom before, you've set up a room, a virtual classroom that basically mimics the physical classroom space. And what ends up happening is then when the students, they go to that room, you have your session, and then they come back a week later, and you reuse that room over and over. Because of that, you can set up folders with content, and that all persists. Collaborate is a session-based architecture, whereas you create a session, a separate session for every time you're going to log in and have asynchronous collaboration like this. And so it is session-based. It's less permanent than the Wimba room-based type of scenario, which means when we all log out today from this session, the content that I will have loaded, the file, the multimedia file that I prepared, the file, the guide that PDF that I sent to you, all of that will not persist in this session. It'll be gone after we all leave today. So it does not persist. So that is a difference, and it's a different way of thinking about when you use these types of sessions in your teaching, is that you create sessions, separate sessions for every time we're going to log in. As far as the content organization in the session, it's a little more difficult to kind of organize it neatly into a folder like you can in Wimba Classroom. You can load content in advance. There is actually a piece of software called Plan that as an institution is available to anyone that is using Blackboard Collaborate to pre-build their sessions and organize them. And then that file can just be loaded in and it will have all of those interactions. However, I've found from my own experience it's just easier to log in a bit early and then to load your content just before the session starts. It's really easy to do that. Probably the two biggest discrepancies between Wimba Classroom and Blackboard Collaborate is currently there is participants cannot download on demand the mobile archives, meaning the MP3 and MP4 files for the archives. Whereas right now in Blackboard Collaborate, or I should say Wimba Classroom, in Wimba Classroom right now, when you record a session, as soon as that recording is finished, in Blackboard there are links for the students to download the MP3, which is the audio, or the MP4, meaning the audio and video of the archive. That currently is not available in Blackboard Collaborate. In fact, to get the archive in a mobile format right now, as of today, the moderator or presenter would have to install a piece of software on their computer called Illuminate Publish that they then run, and that creates the files. But it's a manual process that you have to do. Blackboard is working on adding this feature to the Blackboard building block. And it is hoped that that would be available by this summer. So before fall of 2012, we would have this ability built into Blackboard. Now that is subject to change. So if you rely on the students on demand being able to download mobile versions of archives, that's just something to be aware of. That at the moment, that feature is not in Blackboard Collaborate. Then the other feature that is not available and likely will not be at any point in the future is telephony, or the ability for the student to call in on a phone and participate over the phone to the session. That is a feature that's been enabled. It was just part of what Wimba offered. It was bundled into their service, and it was an attractive feature. Again, one of the reasons that as an institution we licensed Wimba Classroom initially. Blackboard is not going to be continuing to provide that feature for free. We would have to pay for a separate third-party provider to offer that. And quite honestly, looking at the stats every semester, there's only a handful of students every semester that use that dial-in feature. And while it's really nice to have, the usage may not justify continuing and paying an extra fee for that, especially given the fact that a mobile app is coming that students will be able to use, and as smartphone use continues to increase, likely that's how students will be participating in sessions. So those really are the four key differences between Wimba at present and Blackboard Collaborate, and the four really feature differences between the two. Things that we have in Wimba that aren't in Blackboard Collaborate. Now we've put together a place for you to find more information, and actually have put together a resource page having to do with Blackboard Collaborate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a web tour to actually launch this page and let you take a look at it. So again, another one of the features is the ability to do a web tour. So I'm going to pull up right now the Teaching with Blackboard website, niu.edu/Blackboard, and this page has loaded, and so right now we're on what's called a web tour, and this is a live web page inside of the browser. And so to find this Blackboard Collaborate, the resources that we've posted online, if you go to the Teaching with Blackboard site, and if you go to Communicating and Collaborating, and that's what I've just clicked on, and then I'm going to click on Collaborate. This will take you to our Blackboard Collaborate Next Generation page. And this is a live page, and you can go ahead and actually scroll down the page in your browser. You'll be able to scroll, move up and down. If you, for example, on the left-hand side, the menu on the left, if you click on one of the other links, like for announcements or a discussion board, go ahead and just click on one of those other links to see how you are able to navigate the page by yourself, independent. But when I'm ready to move us on to a new page, I simply click a link, and then you have to come back, in essence, to the page I was on. So on this page, this is really devoted to faculty. On the right-hand side, we have a variety of links, tutorials. One of the links we have is to participating in a Blackboard Collaborate session. We've put together a resource page devoted for students on how they can get started participating in a Blackboard Collaborate session. So for those of you that are interested in starting to use Blackboard Collaborate, and you actually have the opportunity as soon as the summer to start using this in your own teaching, we encourage you to go ahead and give it a try. We have resources here for your students that they can go to, manuals, quick guides, and so forth. So that's a web tour. I'm going to go ahead and take us back now to our slides, but you get a sense of what it's like to have a web tour for your students. Let me talk a little bit about our tentative timeline for upgrading. We do need to, as an institution, move from Wimba Classroom to Blackboard Collaborate. We do have a bit of latitude as an institution as to the timing of that. And so part of making sure that we are sensitive to the needs of faculty, that's why we're having this preview session, and we had a face-to-face preview session earlier this past week, and are soliciting feedback from the faculty as to your thoughts on a timeline for moving forward. And then do you see any issues with moving forward with switching from Wimba Classroom to Blackboard Collaborate? We are currently testing. We've been piloting and testing Collaborate during the spring. All of the online faculty development workshops that we offer through the Faculty Development and Instructional Design Center, nearly all of those we've used Blackboard Collaborate just to pilot this past year. And we will be moving to a limited release for this summer, meaning if you are teaching a summer class, you are welcome to make use of Blackboard Collaborate, or if you're going to be teaching a class this fall, but you are setting up the course this summer, you've requested your Blackboard sections, and you're getting those configured, and you'd like access to Blackboard Collaborate this summer, you simply need to get in touch with me, and again, I'll have my contact information on the final slide here of this presentation, but just let me know that you're interested, and we can enable it for you early so that you can get in and get access early. So we have a limited release this summer so that we can know who we have enabled Collaborate for, and we can provide follow-up assistance as needed. The goal would be that by fall, by August, we would have a full campus release, whereas in Blackboard, the building block would be enabled for all courses, all Blackboard communities, for anyone to make use of. And then for this fall, for fall 2012, both Blackboard Collaborate and Wimba Classroom would both be enabled simultaneously. So for those that were perhaps still planning to use Wimba Classroom, they would have the opportunity to do that for the fall semester. However, we do anticipate that by spring of 2013, that Wimba Classroom would be deactivated, and then moving forward we would be solely using Blackboard Collaborate as our web conferencing tool. So that's our timeline, and that's really tentatively what we're looking at as far as an institution for making this switch. So we need your feedback, especially those of you that have taught with Wimba Classroom. We really want to hear from you and your thoughts on Blackboard Collaborate, and especially if you see any issues with moving from Collaborate or from Wimba Classroom to Blackboard Collaborate. When you leave this session today, those of you participating live, there will be a survey will automatically open in your browser where you can provide us some feedback on just a couple-minute survey. Just give us your thoughts, your initial thoughts about Blackboard Collaborate. If you're viewing the archive of this session, if you could go to this survey, it's at j.mp/webconfsurvey, short for web conferencing survey. The URL is also here on your slide that you're seeing, but if you could pull up that survey in your browser and quickly give us your feedback, we would appreciate that. It's not just for those who have used Wimba, Arlene. That's a really good question. It's for anybody. So if you've not used Wimba before or you have, either way, we would just love to get your feedback on what your thoughts are about the new features in this Blackboard Collaborate Next Generation Web Conferencing tool. So we do really value your feedback. We do have the archives not only for this session, but all of our sessions are available online. We are planning some introductory sessions for Blackboard Collaborate. We have a session actually first week of May, and there will be others that we'll be offering throughout the fall. So you can be looking for those if you'd like more training. But again, there's a lot of great resources on the Blackboard Collaborate page that I shared with you a bit earlier as well. And just as another reminder, as we get ready to wrap things up today, the archives, all of our program archives are available in iTunes. You can just search for NIU Faculty Development, and you'll find this archive for this session as well as all of our past program archives in a mobile podcast form, and you can download those and listen as you wish. And if you're on Facebook or Twitter, we'd love to have you follow us, like us, all of those social things, and we'd love to hear from you on our social media sites. So with that, I'm going to put up my contact information here and then just throw it open for any questions anyone may have. I'm going to stop the recording, and with that, I'll take any questions that you may have. Otherwise, thank you for joining us today.